There's stories, and then there's stuff to do. So let's just talk about stories for a minute. All of us are going to learn history better through a story format. And any age can enjoy the same story. So stories really are the key. I like to look at them as the meat, and then everything else is a side dish.
So, Linda, let's talk about the how of teaching history, because this is, of course, one of those questions that every homeschool mom asks. Maybe they know what to teach, but they're like, how do I do this? How do I teach history to my kids? And obviously picking up books and reading them. But how can we teach it? How can we make it enjoyable for ourselves and for our kids?
Mm-hmm. Number one, I think we have to separate out that there's stories and then there's stuff to do. So let's just talk about stories for a minute. All of us are going to learn history better through a story format. Yeah. And any age can enjoy the same story. You could have the story of the Trojan horse, and a little 4-year-old might actually enjoy it because there's little soldiers stuffed in a horse that get rolled into a city gate, right? But a 99-year-old can still enjoy the story because it's just fascinating, right? So stories really are the key. I like to look at them as the meat, and then everything else is a side dish that you can add or take away. But the side dishes, they serve a purpose. So I was thinking about this, Yvette, when you asked me to come on today, and I've never done this before, so I hope this works well. But I looked at how I would divide the side dishes, and some letters came to me. I realized that if you took the letter E, you could say, well, some of our side dishes help us expand and enhance what we're reading in history. So that's your E column. But then a host of other little tools and things help us with an R, which is to review and retain. So if I could just take the rest of our time and divide between E and R, those columns, I think it'll help give a visual to your listener so that they can think, ooh, what do we really need here? So the kind of things that help you expand history. Well, first of all, literature, as in biographies, particularly your nonfiction. So maybe you have a basic story you got from a book, but now you're going to grow it because you're going to pick up another book. So yes, you are just expanding literally what you read, taking it maybe to a higher level. Well, here's another way to expand what they're learning in history is to tie in geography. Open the atlas, pull out a globe, find with your finger where this took place so that you actually can then understand the dynamics, especially over border wars. You've got to see it visually. Then there's a host of things students can do activity-wise that are, say, research-oriented, like more of the story. Perhaps you want to do something like maybe you know the story of Alexander Hamilton, who died in a duel shot by Aaron Burr. Well, how about the rest of the story, like what became of Aaron Burr? So I love the rest of the stories. Those are ways to expand and enhance. And then let's not just forget that all stories, like you can't learn it all in any single setting because it's an endless topic. So there's always more to learn. So if they want to go to the library and get all the ninja books or all the submarine books, just keep going. You know, which, by the way, don't squelch a curious 11-year-old. They're notorious for that. They want to keep going and keep going. But now let's turn to the R column and let's talk about reviewing and retaining. What do we do to help us do that? And why do we even want to do that? Well, for one, we don't want to waste our time. We want to retain some of the stories for all the reasons we talked about with the why. We want to retain, not that we're going to get all the little facts straight because we'll never remember them all, but we want to retain the most important people in the main parts of their lives. So one way to do that is maybe have your kids make little note cards as you go. You know, what are the takeaways for you? This is a place where quizzes are helpful, not because you're nickel and diming the little facts, but the quizzes will help you keep straight some of the main people. I think, by the way, there's about 100 people to know from each of those 4 time periods we talked about in the last episode. You know, the eras, ancient, medieval, Renaissance, modern. If students know about 100 from each era, that's manageable. When you start adding hundreds more, it gets cloudy and foggy. So use some note cards, use some quizzes to just help keep your hundreds straight. Let that be manageable so that you're intelligent, you know, and can use stories of the people. Another thing, there's exercises, there's games, there's a lot of ways to just, you know, be fun, you know, pin the tail on the donkey that's, you know, putting people up and all kinds of things you can do. Then let's go back to literature once again. literature can help you with the retention and the remembering. But in this case, maybe it's the historical fiction. It's the kind like, take Johnny Tremaine. He's a favorite of the story of the American Revolution. He's not a real person, but he represents a real boy. He works for a silversmith, and it makes the time period become more alive, not because it's a play-by-play of the American Revolution, but because he's dropped in it. Mm-hmm. So obviously the read-alouds, which, by the way, I have a host of read-aloud favorites on our website, because since there are hundreds of titles that could fit any time period, I personally went through and picked 12 to 15 read-aloud favorites that I just think are the juiciest. So we recently added that to our website. I just want people to know, because it's a new tool. It's like a list and links, so you can find some of those things that we recommend.
Oh, that's
Let's
great.
see, other things. Let's go back to the activities. So for the little guys, I think the most important thing is we're not expecting little guys, I mean younger than middle school, we're not expecting them to master world history. No one can master world history. The older we get, the more we can connect the dots and see cause and effect in that. But when they're younger, we're just exposing them to it. It's the first time that they got the story of Mary, Queen of Scots or whatever. And so in that case, we just want to use their senses. So let them burn things, dye things, eat things, cook things, do things using their senses to help them remember a story or an odd fact about someone, and go from there. Then when they're older, they can recall through the use of their senses, like, oh yeah, remember when we were little and we wrapped up like mummies? They were just having fun.
With toilet paper, of course.
With toilet paper. Except during the pandemic, we had to use what do you call that other thing? Use something else. Anyway, but just, when they get older, it's to realize that the Egyptians actually thought they had to preserve bodies because they had no hope for an afterlife. Mm-hmm. They didn't know the biblical teaching that we would get new bodies in heaven. So they're like literally taking old flesh and trying to preserve it, through the mummification process. I don't think a second grader needs to know that part, but they'll remember when they're in 10th grade studying the Egyptians again, that they did that when they were little. So yes, using their senses is just key, and it makes it more fun. We certainly want our kids on a good homeschool day to want more, to think that there's some fun to be had. It's certainly not just worksheets, though some will thrive on worksheets. Sure. You got to know your kids. Yeah. But most children are going to engage if they can move.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know there's been times where my girls will do like a little skit or a play or something like that. One time we even filmed it. And it's the beauty of having smartphones now. Like you can just get out your phone, say, put it on video and tell them, okay, I want you to act this out. They can make fun costumes out of, who knows, whatever materials they have at home. And that's a really fun way for them to make history come alive and fun for them. And they'll remember those things better than they will just reading it out of a book.
One more great tool that really fits in both the E column or the R column would be timelines. Because timelines, when you do see it all spread out, well, for one, that expands your understanding because you see contemporaries, but it also helps you review. Like, oh, yeah, David and Aesop live near each other. I'm sorry, Daniel and Aesop live near each other. So how cool is that? And on it goes. So yeah, we can't leave out timelines. They're a great tool for the how.
Homeschool Insights is brought to you by Apologia, BJU Press Homeschool, and CTC Math. Visit the show notes to learn more about these excellent homeschooling resources. And for more encouragement, listen to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast at schoolhouserocked.com.